Shadow Leader of the House.
Thank you very much indeed. Madam Deputy Speaker, I hope you had, and everyone in this chamber had.
Strap in. Today's clash is all about tax, trust, and the Deputy Prime Minister, with the Shadow Leader alleging a 40k dodge on a third home and the government bracing for a tax-heavy budget. Expect legal-sounding barbs, manifesto-level virtue, and a full-throttle defence from the front bench. Who lands the knockout? The accuser with receipts or the government with a reset?
A very good summer break with just the right proportions of sun, sleep and family. Let me, if I may, start with a double round of congratulations. First to the Prime Minister on his 63rd birthday this week, putting him squarely in the prime of life, and to my brilliant colleague, the MP for Berwickshire, Roxburgh and Selkirk, who has just been appointed to the giddy heights of Deputy Shadow Leader of the House. That is the reshuffle that really matters. Madam Deputy Speaker, as befits a former lawyer at Freshfields, he will be bringing his forensic intellect to scrutinising the government. Madam Deputy Speaker, I was planning to talk about the government's performance over the summer in Business Questions today, taking into account the escalating union demands for pay, the rise in inflation, employment and gilt yields, the record number of small boat crossings in the first half of this year. I think it's fair to say the past few weeks have been a total shambles for the government. Little wonder the Prime Minister has undertaken yet another of his performative government resets in order to distract the media and the general public. He insists that everything is absolutely fine, which is doubtless why it's all being changed around yet again. They can't blame these things on the previous government, though doubtless the Leader of the House will try in her response. No, Madam Deputy Speaker, today there can only be one topic, and that is tax. In the real world, it seems that those of us poor souls who actually do pay tax are about to be confronted with a massive tax-raising budget, perhaps with a particular focus, it's been rumoured in the media, or kites have been flown, on property taxes. Last year, the Chancellor increased spending by £70 billion, funding half of that through taxes and half through increased borrowing. Of course, the only person who won't be paying more tax, it seems, is the Deputy Prime Minister. Now, I like and I rather admire the Deputy Prime Minister, Madam Deputy Speaker. Uniquely amongst the government, at least she has a policy of trying to reduce taxes. We've just heard in this House the Solicitor General talk about government taking a strict line on fraud. I didn't hear so much from the Solicitor General about taking a strict line on tax fraud. But we now have a situation in which the Deputy Prime Minister, or potential tax fraud, has tried to dodge paying £40,000 in tax on her third home after demanding previous ministers should resign over tax scandals. It appears that she failed even to look at HMRC guidance on the internet as to whether higher rate stamp duty was payable. That guidance is readily available and it is straightforward. It is hard to imagine that any qualified tax advisor, let alone any individual seeking to question their own tax arrangements, would not have taken a look at it or know about it. The Deputy Prime Minister signed a deed for what appears to be an off-the-shelf trust.
Okay, this is the attack line crystallised. The Shadow Leader frames it as hypocrisy, past calls for resignations over tax versus a reported 40k liability on a third home. He piles on, HMRC guidance was clear, an off-the-shelf trust deed. What did she disclose, and did the civil service sign off? That's a tightly constructed indictment, process, principle, and optics. The subtext: if the budget raises property taxes, credibility becomes the currency, and any personal tax controversy becomes politically radioactive. Here's the key question for you. Does intention matter, or is the mere appearance of advantage fatal in a cost of living squeeze? And tactically, would you rather prosecute the paper trail, deeds, guidance, disclosures, or go after double standards in the court of public opinion? Drop your verdict. Is this a resigning matter, a rectifiable error, or pure political theatre?
Scheme from Shoesmith, the solicitors. I ask, was this crafted to avoid tax? And we need to know more about what disclosures she made to the civil service about her 3 homes, what review they did, and what advice she was offered. I hope the Prime Minister's advisor will look at both these issues in addition to all the other issues he's looking at. So I ask the Leader of the House now, does she believe Cabinet Ministers, let alone the Deputy Prime Minister of this country, should be using schemes to dodge tax? Should the Secretary of State responsible for housing be flipping her own main residence to avoid paying tax due on it? Does she concede that there is the appearance of very serious impropriety about these proceedings? Does she see how difficult they have made the situation for her colleague, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's planning to put a budget in front of this House that will include tax-raising measures, many of which like to be focused on property? Above all, Labour and every member opposite stood by this, made a solemn commitment to maintain, and I quote, the highest standards in office in their own general election manifesto. The highest standards in office. Does the Leader of the House accept that this conduct by the Deputy Prime Minister massively falls short of that, and that it discredits both the Prime Minister and the government as a whole?
Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and welcome back to you and to all the House staff. And can I join the Shadow Leader in wishing the Prime Minister happy birthday for earlier this week as well. But this summer has also been marked by some very happy personal events here in the House. Now, I'm not talking about Taylor Swift's engagement to Travis Kelce, although I'm sure we'll all want to wish them a happy engagement. But we've got our very own power couples, Madam Deputy Speaker, the honourable members for North East Derbyshire and Loughborough, who got married to each other over the summer recess. Also, the honourable member for Lee, who married her long-term partner Ian, and the honourable member for Cardiff South and Penarth, who married Christian this recess. But the happy news doesn't stop there, Madam Deputy Speaker. The member for Southampton Test had her beautiful baby daughter. I'm thrilled for her, and also for the member for Leicester East on the arrival of her new baby too. And there's new dads in the House as well, the members for Wirral West and York Outer. So that's dispatches for this week. And we are very much more a family-friendly Parliament these days, and I am determined that modernisation will continue this trend. But can I also join the Shadow Leader in welcoming the new Shadow Deputy Leader to his place? Although I am hoping that he still will on occasion ask me some questions and invite me to his constituency from the back benches, which I'm always very happy to accept, as he knows. I'm also pleased to announce, Madam Deputy Speaker, that this first bumper session of Parliament of this Labour government will last until spring 2026. By any measure, our legislative programme in this first session is highly ambitious, delivering on the promises we made in our manifesto and shifting power and opportunity to working people. And there's a few highlights, which I know the Shadow Leader is always happy to hear about. The biggest boost to workers' rights in a generation, finally ending no-fault evictions, stopping water bosses' bonuses, setting up Great British Energy to get bills down, bringing back rail into public ownership.
BC government's counterpunch is classic contain and pivot. First, process shield. The Deputy PM has rectified the mistake and referred herself to the independent advisor. Translation, let the watchdog take the heat while ministers keep moving. Second, a policy drumroll, workers' rights boost, ending no-fault evictions, water boss bonuses curbed, Great British Energy, rail back into public ownership, steel jobs, local government settlement, planning reform, an ambitious first session to spring 2026. Third, economic reframing, faster G7 growth in H1, mortgages at a 5-year low, and a reminder of the Liz Truss mini-budget to boomerang blame. Big picture, today was a credibility referendum. Labour bets voters care most about integrity around tax. The government bets voters will prioritise delivery and growth, while the advisor reviews the case. Your call: did the attack stick, or did the policy pivot blunt it? Who won the chamber and who wins the country? If you found this debate as explosive as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping UK political breakdowns.
Saving British steel jobs, seizing and crushing dangerous off-road vehicles, finally recriminalising shoplifting, ensuring buses are affordable and serve their communities, protecting our much-loved football clubs. We are taking on the vested interest, holding this country back, and we've still got much more to do in the rest of this session. But in contrast, the party opposite really have shown on whose side they stand in this session, don't they? On the side of landlords against the Renters' Rights Bill, on the side of criminal gangs voting against our Borders Bill, for the few, not the many, in education, and as ever, dying in a ditch to save the hereditary peers in the other place, because we know on whose side they are on. Anyway, he chose today to have another go at the issue of tax and property, which was, I noticed, the subject of their Opposition Day debate yesterday, but they couldn't muster up enough speakers in that debate for it to go the full 3 hours. So he's having another go at that again today. And I'll just repeat, the Deputy Prime Minister has given a full account of her family circumstances and her living arrangements and made clear that she's now rectifying the mistake she's made. She's referred herself to the independent advisor on Ministerial Standards, who's now looking into it. And I'm not going to say any more on that matter because he's looking into it. But suffice to say, the Deputy Prime Minister is a huge, huge asset to this government. She's an incredibly effective minister, and she has been delivering, whether that's record investment in social housing, the flagship Employment Rights Bill, the biggest settlement for local government in many years, major planning reforms to get more homes built, and delivering devolution and community empowerment, and much, much more. They have a go at her because she's so bloody good at her job. And yet again, he comes here and he wants to talk about the economy, he wants to talk about the budget, but yet another year has gone by and we've still had no apology, have we? We've still had no apology from him or his colleagues on the front bench about the state they left the country's finances in. And let's just remind ourselves about that. A huge black hole in public spending, high levels of debt and borrowing, and living standards that fell over the last Parliament for the first time in history. And he's always very selective in his statistics, but he didn't want to mention, did he, that the British economy has grown faster than all other G7 countries in the first half of this year. He didn't mention that mortgages are now at a 5-year low. And after a decade and a half of poor productivity because of a lack of investment, we are now powering up this country and investing in the new jobs of the future around the country, with jobs coming every day. And the Chancellor will set out the budget, as she does in the usual way, and she's made clear that most of the speculation, quite honestly, is rubbish and is damaging. But, you know, let's not forget, shall we? Because it's now coming up to 3 years, I think, the 3-year anniversary since the disastrous Liz Truss mini-budget. I think I remember that he was the Financial Secretary to the Treasury at the Liz Truss mini-budget. That's what happens when you lose confidence. That's what happens when you take irresponsible decisions. It's the poorest in society who pay the heaviest price when the economy crashes, and we'll take absolutely no lectures from them. He wanted to talk about the performance of the government over the summer, but he didn't do that. But come on, let's be honest, Madam Deputy Speaker. his leader doesn't need so much a reset, but a full-blown resuscitation, doesn't she? Her party spent most of the summer checking whether she had a pulse or not. But the truth is that her leadership, as the future of the party opposite, is quite frankly at death's door.